Hey there. It's been a hot minute, right? And I suppose that there's been a lot that I've missed. If you don't know, I haven't really been focused on YouTube recently, but something that has lingered its way into my YouTube feed is one of the dev diaries for Transport Fever 3. Now, when Transport Fever 2 came out, I did a couple series on it. I think I did a total of like 30 videos, somewhere around there, and I haven't really touched the game since. I think I've played it on my own a handful of times without actually doing any sort of recording, but I genuinely have not really touched the game in the form of recording content for YouTube. Mostly because I've been focusing on other games for that aspect, but that's a different story entirely. So I wanted to go and come on here, take a quick look at what's going on with the first dev diary, which is about the environment of the game. And I think I've already watched through it a little bit. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to save this for a reaction because there's a lot in the video that they go and discuss that not only impacts how you'll end up playing the game, but impacts everything else few and far in between. But with all said and done, let's actually go ahead and get into it. So when I opened up the reaction, my first thought is what I wanted to see from getting a expanded environment. And what I want to really see is essentially how is it that the environment is going to change our gameplay aspects. There's a lot of different gameplay mechanics that can go ahead and impact the way you play a game, but the environment is really one of those aspects that not many people really look into. And when you do look into it, it's typically kind of off the shoulder. It's not something that you're going to worry about or something that degree. Obviously, that's not my plan here. I want to go ahead and get a good idea as to what we're looking at and kind of give you guys my thoughts and opinions about it at the same time, because there's a lot to happen within a dev diary that we could go ahead and see, but one could easily change from the actual alpha, beta, or full release versions. Or two, there are other things that frankly will go ahead and have a higher impact than anyone would have thought of. So I am mostly going into this with a little bit of a blind perspective. I do know that the narrator for the dev diary is a YouTuber that I follow, Colonel Failure, but he goes by Sam, of course, because he's the community manager over at Transport Fever and Urban Games, or Urban Games proper. So let's go ahead and dive right into it.
Hello, I'm Sam, the Community Manager at Urban Games, and welcome to this first look at map creation.
So, I know we're only 12 seconds into the video, but I'm taking in this first glimpse that we got right here. This is the first glimpse to the environment proper. This really does go and impact like how it is that you'll possibly see the game in full. Like it even has the watermark right at the very bottom where it says beta footage, not final software. So by all means, this is most likely going to change. With any sort of game productions, they are going to have certain aspects that are going to have to change for betterment of cost, betterment of time, for betterment of expectation. A prime example of that is City Skylines 2. City Skylines 2, there was a lot that they went ahead and showed us in the developments of the actual game, but in the end, it wasn't what was fully in the game itself. And I believe Transport Fever 3 might take a similar approach to that. I hope, though, not in the same way. So let's go and do that. And yes, I love the fact that they chose Colonel Failure, Sam, to go ahead and be their community manager for this, because he's a fantastic dude. Like, if you have not watched any of his videos or seen any of his content, by all means, go check him out on YouTube. Links in the description.
In Transport Fever 3. In this video series, we will take a closer look at some of the key features in the new game. With every game environment having distinct challenges, the map you choose or create has a huge impact on gameplay. In this video, we'll demonstrate how we've changed map generation and the appearance of the world.
I'm going to pause it once again right there. Something else I'm seeing, in case it's not too obvious, it looks like we have like offshore fisheries and also offshore oil rigs in the game now. I am genuinely interested to see how that's going to play into the actual gameplay mechanics. Also, I am seeing like we do have a couple extra towns here. I feel like the town generation mechanics are going to stay relatively the same. I think that the only thing that might change is how the game ends up using or developing their towns in general. But who knows? Maybe we'll find out more.
In Transport Fever 3, each environment type represents a very different opportunity to build, with the in-game map generator providing more variation than ever before. Maps are now composed of multiple regions with distinct biomes. The way these regions blend with one another brings a whole new level of authenticity.
I know I cut him off right there, and I keep pausing the video because there's a lot to go ahead and digest and take a look back here, but having biomes in the game now where you're going to go ahead and explore, say, a very sort of low hills area into a highly mountainous area, all the way down to a lakeside or even shoreside. I feel like that's going to change a lot with how people will go ahead and play the game. But I'm going to stop rambling. Let's go ahead and continue watching it. I think we'll watch up for about another like 2 minutes before I pause the game again, or pause the actual video.
To your game world. The result is that every generated map feels unique not only in appearance but in topography, leading to more gameplay variety than ever before. Map generation is built on underlying node-based technology. Combining simple nodes, complex rules are followed that define the appearance of the overall environment. This has allowed our art team to bring far greater visual and emotional value to map generation, while giving designers the opportunity to fine-tune gameplay-specific features. Better still, when modders get hold of it, they'll be able to take it in directions we hadn't even considered. Rather than just tell you about it, let's see it in action. Here, we're using a pre-recorded camera track, which is a tool you'll also have access to. We'll run through the same temperate map seed with a variety of different settings. By changing each of the individual settings, the basic geography of the map remains the same, but the differences in the end result can be quite dramatic. Create the map that best suits what you want to build, or how difficult you'd like the environment to be, or simply the mood you want to create. If you'd rather build the entire map yourself, the full map editor allows you to import an existing height map or paint and sculpt your perfect landscape.
Okay. So it's about to transition into the next part, but I wanted to stop it there because there is a lot to digest with that like minute and a half long segment that we just skimmed through. So I'm going to go ahead and backtrack a little bit here. So first and foremost, we have the different types of terrain that are all going to be node control. So I guess it's going to be similar to where you're going to have access to, say, this node is going to be a highly mountainous area, whereas this node is going to be like a low hills area. Or maybe you're going to be able to place down a node that says like heavy forest or heavy jungle, something along those lines. And maybe in the map editor, because they did say that the map editor is coming back this time around, maybe with the map editor, we're actually going to be able to dictate how the different environments work with each other. Because in my opinion, and this is something that I've experienced from the many different states I've lived in within the US itself, but you're not necessarily always going to be in the same environment. So being able to have that sort of mixed environment right there where you'll be able to go to like a snowy mountainous area into a low hills area into a swamp-like area. Those type of environmental changes really do go and impact gameplay potential. It can impact it in ways to the point where it's not super significant, but it can also impact it in ways where you're essentially forced to go ahead and work around your terrain. Granted, you have to do that anyway to go make sure that you're keeping the game as low cost as possible. But let's go and continue on.
G.
Well, actually, let's see here. We did see a little bit more of the dry climate that is based for the U.S. portion, or the U.S. sort of mentality. Um, I do want to admit I want to see more about how they're going to blend the biomes in the U.S. Topography, because the U.S. is not completely desert. Not at all. You got the West Coast that has a high abundance of verdant forests. You got the East Coast that has its mountainous terrain. You also got a lot of uncanny valley or valley sort of connection on coming into the middle of the U.S. as well. The part where you see the mostly deserty aspects is primarily in the sort of eastern part of the West Coast and the western part of the Mountain Time Zone. That being like Nevada. I think you can also include Idaho into that. You can include New Mexico in that, Arizona. The thing about those states, though, is that they're not all desert. They do have different parts of their map or different parts of their topography, more specifically, that are of different environments. You got, like for example, over in Arizona, you have, I believe it's Flagstaff, where that's a higher mountainous like area, compared to the rest of Arizona, where it's mostly desert. Okay. Maybe that's what they're trying to go ahead and aim for, where they're trying to go ahead and focus on allowing you to experience multiple different biomes within the same map. So that way you're not conflicted with just the topography of one biome. Heck, one thing I could potentially see just based off of this information alone is being able to combine the 3 or 4 different templates. I think that they're supposed to be including a fourth template now, but I'll get into that in just a minute when we actually get there. But um, I genuinely would want to see how the biomes of the 3 different types. You got the tropical, you got the dry environment, and you got the temperate environments, all kind of like mesh together a little bit. So I would really like to see how that's going to interact with each other. So going back to, let's see here. Going back to this, the pre-recorded flyover camera. This is an interesting concept to bring into the game. You're able to go ahead and change the different aspects, and even though you still have the map down here in the bottom right, and you still have the ability to go and change the different variables for like lakes, rivers, and mountains, you're still able to take a look at the in-game capture of what that will look like, so that you can get an idea as to what you're going to have to do in the game proper. I think that's a fantastic thing to add, because that allows for much more replayability. That allows for a better fine-tunement as to what you're going to end up seeing in the game itself. Like seeing the transition of going from a highly mountainous with a low river count and very few lakes, which is a great map. In all honesty, it does look like a great map. Then, like just like a couple frames later, we see it where there's hardly any mountains, and you still got low number of lakes, which is fine. You don't need to worry about lakes per se, but then you still got the medium number of rivers. And then we go into the next bit where it's also, I think I skipped through a little bit too fast right there.
The map remains the same, but the differences in
Then this one right here, the high amounts of lakes, which you can see on the map that there are towns that are in the middle of the lakes. That tells me that there's going to be the potential for lake towns. Now, I don't know about you, but that's hard to accomplish in a game like Transport Fever, or at least a series of Transport Fever. The reason I say that is that the game focuses on making sure that there is some type of landmass available for it to go ahead and place down streets, place down different types of houses, industry, commercial. It makes sure that there's land available for it to do that. But if you're able to now have a lake town on the map, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right about that, but those markers right there either look like an industry symbol, which could mean that that is either like a oil rig, a fishery, maybe it's a new type of industry that we're not familiar with, which having a fishery in general, that's going to be interesting to play around with because you're going to be able to produce fish produce and bring it into a city. That it's blowing my mind. It's absolutely blowing my mind. But if it is where you can actually see that there's going to be different types of towns that are going to be either within the lake to create lakeside towns, or maybe just like towns that are going to be a bit better in terms of generating on a lakeside, I think that will be kind of interesting. But then again, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and continue on where we left off. And it was right here.
For many players, a significant part of the game is simply watching the world you've built in motion.
Yep.
Much requested full day and night modes have been introduced for the first time, allowing you to experience your world at whatever time of day takes your fancy.
I hate to pause it right there because we only just got back to reanalyzing it, but oh my god, finally! Like, I heard tidbits about this when I was reading through the comments before starting to record this, and I'm like, okay, I know it doesn't sound like it's a massive game changer, but implementing a day-night cycle into a transport-esque game, kind of changes the gameplay of the game entirely. It adds in a whole new level of details and visuals in the game that we weren't even expecting to get. Now, something that I don't expect to get, which I don't think that Transport Fever 3 will end up including, because, but then again, I could be wrong about this, is that taking a book out of the Planet Coaster, the Planet Zoo, all of the Frontier games that have been coming out recently, where you have the voxel terrain editor. If Transport Fever 3 includes a voxel terrain editor, that would be fantastic because that means you're able to create some magnificent, natural architecture. And I hate to go ahead and use it this way, but natural architecture is one of the most beautiful things you can imagine. I believe that there's some formations in like the West Coast where there is some natural architecture where you have like these archways that are going above a road piece, for example. And you're like, well, maybe that's just man-made. Some of these are naturally made. Some of these are not man-made structures. I think I'll try and put in a few pictures around here so that you guys can get an idea as to what I'm talking about. But if they were to include a voxel terrain generator, oh, eye candy aplenty. Maybe that's something that we're going to get in a later on dev diary, but to see that we're getting a day-night cycle, that's already enough to seal the deal right there, to go and allow the environment to change in plenty more ways than I was anticipating. But let's go and continue on.
Our art and engineering teams have added physical skies to the game that provide believable lighting changes, while including cloud cover that drastically affects the lighting mood. Reflective materials like water now mirror the entire world, including the current sky and cloud appearance, thanks to screen space reflections.
Okay.
Each different environment represents a unique gameplay challenge. We've completely overhauled the way the temperate map is designed. You used to be able to run rail along every riverbank without ever having to worry about elevation changes. Now you'll need to contend with lakes and tributaries, unless your aim is to reach the mountains, in which case that's a wholly different challenge. Tropical maps have also been given some love, so that they now offer a unique island hopping and jungle experience. And volcanoes. Dormant volcanoes, but volcanoes nonetheless. And no, you won't be the only person to decide to put your headquarters in a volcano, but don't let that stop you.
Okay. Okay. Now that's a subtle nod. That's a subtle nod right there, Colonel. Uh what Sam's talking about here, I think that there was a YouTuber a couple years ago that created a man-made formation of a sort of a volcano-like structure within a tropical map. I don't remember who it was per se. I know that wasn't something I did, but they ended up putting their headquarters inside of the heart of the volcano, which I think is a subtle nod to that. And I kind of like that detail. But going back here a little bit and seeing that we're going to have cliffs and tributaries along the actual riverside to allow it where you're not going to be able to have your rails and roads going along the actual riverbank itself for endless miles or endless kilometers as well. So that'll definitely be a game changer in my opinion. As far as how much of a game changer, that I'm honestly curious. I'm very curious about how much that's going to change how people are going to plan their environments, how they're going to go ahead and expand into the different areas of their map. This is going to change some things. Maybe not necessarily for most people, because if you're playing on Sandbox, it's not going to change anything for you. But if you're playing in either a campaign or you're going to be playing in a regular free game where you're not going to be, say, you're not going to go ahead and end up worrying about money too much. Yeah, you're not going to worry about that because you'll just go ahead and create a tunnel and bulldoze right through that stuff. But if you're going to have to worry about money at some point, this is something that's going to go ahead and be brought up a lot. And kid you not right there, that is going to be brought up. Um, the also the fact that they changed how the temperate, tropical, and all the different environments interact with each other, as far as like how they go ahead and generate their terrain, I think that's lovely. Um, let's go ahead and resume back so that way I can stop yapping and let you guys hear more of my thoughts because we still got like another like another minute and a half left of this video.
And volcanoes. Dormant volcanoes, but volcanoes nonetheless. And no, you won't be the only person to decide to put your headquarters in a volcano, but don't let that stop you. The dry environment has always been characterized by sheer canyons and dusty mesas, but the effect is now far more pronounced. Rivers will make shipping routes on a dry map particularly tricky, but they might represent the best way to connect low-lying settlements to one another. This brings us to the new environment for Transport Fever 3, Subarctic, where snow-capped and craggy mountain ranges lead you through desolate boreal tundra as it descends towards swamps that will provide a challenge unlike any other.
This is interesting. I knew that there was going to be a fourth environment that was going to be introduced for Transport Fever 3. I just didn't know what it was going to be called prior to watching this. And I think that that was also something else that was spoiled in the comments, admittedly, which kind of can't help it there when you're reading through the comments just to see what's going to be happening. But seeing that we are going to be getting a new environment type, I'm going to say this without a doubt. That's going to lead to a new vehicle set, as it would most likely do anyway. I think we're going to get like maybe some vehicles that are based on Russian vehicles, so they'll most likely spur away and have like the Russian vehicles get spurred away from the tropical climate and expand a bit further on the tropical vehicles, the ones that are based around Japan and Asia. I feel like those vehicles are going to get expanded upon. That's just a prediction I'm making here and now because I feel like that's genuinely going to happen. As far as what we might get with the boreal climate, we may get some Russian vehicles that I would be all too happy to go and explore and learn a bit about the different types of vehicles that they've used over the many centuries. But at the same time, I'm interested to see what other sort of environments they'll go ahead and use right there, because if I'm not mistaken, that could also include countries like Finland and Norway, where they could go ahead and be included in that sort of aspect. So kind of like Northern Europe vibes. I'm interested to see that. I'm genuinely interested to see that. maybe we're going to get a lot more. But obviously, this is just speculation for what's to come because I don't think we're going to get this anytime in the near future. I don't know what their release schedule is for these dev diaries, but the anticipation of being able to see these different types of vehicles roaming around and speculating what type of vehicles there is going to be as well, that keeps my brain thinking. And I have a funny feeling that Transport Fever 3 might turn out to be what rescues the Transport Fever series, because Transport Fever 1, the original Transport Fever, right after Train Fever, was a very good interpretation of how to go ahead and create a good transport management game. Now, Transport Fever 2, unfortunately, in my opinion, was a little bit of a flop. The reason I say that, in my honest opinion, the reason I say that is because the only thing that was genuinely added to Transport Fever 2 was the tropical and Asian climate and vehicles. That was it. There was also the better integration with the modding that they later added a couple patches ago. But they really haven't explored much on what we are going to anticipate to see with all of this. So if Transport Fever 3 is going to not only add in all these different environmental changes, but also add in a new environment itself, being that we're going to get boreal, we're going to get swamp-like environments, which that's going to be a whole nother ballpark to explore. I feel like modders, and I know that he mentioned this earlier in the video, but modders are going to have a ballpark of a time with the boreal and swamp-based maps or swamp-based environments. I just can't anticipate it right now because that gives me... I could even see it where they kind of take a page out of the books of like Southern America. Because if you're familiar with Southern America, there is a lot of swamps and bayous inside of the states of Louisiana and Mississippi. As one would kind of guess, because New Orleans, they are fantastic. They have lots of different changes in their environment because most of the environment is swamplands. So I would like to go and see that change right there of swamplands going into different types of biomes as well. That's a different change in of itself. So maybe we're going to see a lot more of that. And I feel like what we saw earlier with that recorded flyover is going to help us in terms of interpreting that. And the map editor itself, plenty of things to go ahead and explore when it comes to that. But let's go and continue on. I bet you there's more for us to go ahead and uncover.
You're going to need to bring out all your route planning skills to negotiate both mountains and swamps within the same environment. If you're building a road...
I know I just unpaused it and I'm pausing it again here, but if this is what it's making me think of, where we're now going to be able to have candid drop off and pickup points within the industry buildings proper, I genuinely like that. That's going to create a whole nother level of immersion into the game. Because you're not going to need to worry about creating pickup and drop-off yards at the industry. Granted, there was a lot of times where people were able to go ahead and trick the game to go ahead and say, hey, it's this far away, so you can still go ahead and bring your cargo over here, and we'll still be able to drop it off, even though it's like a mile down the road. Okay? This kind of changes that aspect, and I really do like that. If they go through with this, this is going to change a lot within the gameplay's potential. Because people are going to have to work around how it is that they're going to plan routes with implementing it directly at the industry. And it looks like when we were zoomed in there just a couple seconds ago, yeah, you can see that there's about 2 different drop-off points that these 2 trucks are stationed at. Okay. And I feel as though that's going to be something that's going to be interesting to explore. Maybe we're going to get a lot more going on with just this. And it looks like we're going to be getting, this is a new industry type, I would assume, because this seems like it's glass and sand. So you would end up going from like a sand deposit or something like that, bring it over to the glass factory, and the glass factory then takes it off somewhere else.
To negotiate.
Let me go ahead and zoom forward. So there's that, and maybe the glass can be used to go and produce other resources. Like, for example, there's this plant right here that the symbol alone makes me think of wine and whiskey. Okay. Maybe it's where the glass is going to be exported and taken to that sort of facility, and you're going to have to bring in some other type of resource into this like distillery, I guess is what it would be, so that way it can produce the wine and whiskey. That's a great implementation right there, and I think that was also one of the industry types that some of the modern modders added a couple years ago through one of the industry expansions. But let's continue.
Works to the bottling plant. Do you go in a straight line to make it faster, or do you work with the contours of the
Okay, I know I just unpaused it, but taking the glass to the bottling plant. Yeah, that confirms my anticipation right there. Okay, I guess I just preemptively said that without actually like listening through all the way. But getting the glass to go ahead and be made at the bottling plant, at the glass factory, and then taking it to the bottling plant to go ahead and produce wine and whiskey or whatever it is that they're going to end up having as that sort of bottles resource. I think that's going to be interesting.
land to save money. Local populations won't be happy with you for heavily modifying the landscape, but is that a price worth paying for a faster service? While these visual changes may seem purely cosmetic, the landscape contributes massively to how you play the game. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. That is a topic for a different video.
Yes,
we know that the improvements to Transport Fever 3's landscape generation will bring your game to life more than ever, because the world is fundamental to gameplay. We're excited to see what you create when you get your hands on the game.
Okay, I'm going to stop right there because that's pretty much the end of the video. I think that he's doing the standard outro bits right here. So, a couple other things to digest right there. Environment is certainly going to be getting a lot of changes. You're getting a day-night cycle. You're getting improved visual graphics. You're getting better reflection of the sky elements in the actual water itself. That's a graphical nightmare in some gameplay mechanics. And to go and include that in a third iteration of a series, or actually fourth iteration now, I guess, because Train Fever was the original, and then we go into the Transport Fever series, and then we'll go from there. But including the day-night cycle where you actually have the different phases of the moon, I'm guessing that there's going to be the different phases of the moon because we haven't seen that yet. But seeing as how we have the visual representation of the moon and the sun in the game, yeah, I think we're going to be able to see the different phases of the moon as well. Maybe. I think that might be a little bit challenging for them to go and implement. Who knows? But anyway, I think that's been a lot. And I really do like how we have seen so much with the game so far. Like, there is a lot to go and unpack with the game that I'm genuinely interested to see what's going to be coming up next for the game. Like, they could be talking about vehicles next. They could be talking about town generation. Like, in the last shot right there, I don't know if anyone noticed it, and I'm going to go back to it here real quick. But in this last shot right here, we kind of see a little bit of a glimpse of a skyline. And this sort of gives me a vibe where we're going to get new buildings possibly for different towns. Who knows? Maybe that's just me being speculative and that's not actually going to happen, but it's possible. Without any doubt, though, there is a lot to go and unpack here. I've rambled on for like the past 30 minutes just talking about what I've noticed within this first look environment video, which I gotta say, that's a lot. That's a lot right there. I'm going to try and do more of these reaction videos with more of the dev diaries to come for Transport Fever 3, that since it's going to be coming out in 2026, maybe there's going to be a lot more to go ahead and discuss when it actually gets released. Who knows? But Until then, thank you guys so much for tuning on in. I really do appreciate it. If you guys want to go ahead and see the reactions that I have coming up in the future, maybe I'll end up doing more reactions to different type of gameplay, dev diaries, and sort of stuff with other different types of games, and try and give my thoughts and opinions on it. Then by all means, let me know down in the comments and dropping a like on the video. I would greatly do appreciate that. In other words, if you don't want to hear my voice here, then of course you can tune into me whenever I'm live over on Truckers FM, which is a radio station that I volunteer at. Link for that in the description. Either way, that's it for me. Thank you guys so much for tuning on in. And yeah, I will see you guys, I guess, for the next video, whenever that may be. Ciao.